Hi, I'm Professor James, and this video series covers doing custom pattern making for denim jeans. In this series, what we're going to do is we are going to draft our own custom jeans, and it's going to be based on the previous draft that we did for doing a custom fit pant, and you're going to use that to do your adjustments to move on to custom jeans. In this video series, all we're going to cover is doing all of the pattern making that you need, custom fit, as well as finishing with a muslin mock-up. And then from this muslin mock-up, you can do your final test fits, go back and do any final changes to your master patterns before you cut and sew in final fabric. Just so you know, when you complete the series with me, all you're going to have is a master patterns that fit you perfectly, and then you'll need to find other videos if you want to learn how to cut and sew actual jeans in final fabric, and then installing the zippers, the buttons, and the belt loops, and everything else. What we're going to do is we're going to have a front mock fly zipper, as well as a Western style hip pocket, the back patch pocket, a back yoke seam, and then you can choose either between a straight waistband or if you wanted to do a custom contour waistband. Alright, let's review the tools that you're going to need for completing the next series of the drafting videos. You're going to want to have your front and back basic block slopers. Again, this should be after you've done all of your fittings and all of your adjustments to the basic block slopers, and they're totally finished and complete. You'll also want to have some fresh new matrix paper, a pair of your favorite fitting jeans, especially down in the leg area, because we're going to pretty much just duplicate the shaping from the leg. For doing the pattern draft, you're going to want your regular number 2 pencil, red and blue color pencils, and a yellow highlighter. If you make some mistakes in color, we can always wipe it out. Plus you'll want a big eraser, pencil sharpener, some tape. Make sure you're using the magic tape, which has a matte finish to it, because your iron can iron on top of this, and you can also write on top of it. Some paper scissors, and you're also going to need your rulers, so a 2-inch by 18-inch clear ruler. Your French curve, this is a size 17 clear French curve, and this is the Variform curve ruler, or some of you might have the hip curve ruler. If there's any other tools, I'll get to that when we get to different parts. And then later on in the series, you're going to need muslin, ironing board, and a sewing machine so we can do a mock-up. All right, let's get started on this pant draft. Also, if you're following along with the textbook, there's a section in here where it talks about taking your basic block and turn it into a jean block. And then when we move into the pockets, for the version of my book, it's chapter 17, and you come into learning to do the front hip or Western style pocket. And then I'm going to show you even more in depth on how to use this pocket and get rid of your front dart. And then also inside the textbook, we're going to go to the chapter where they have the hip yoke design. This is inside of the pants with the different stylings. And so we're going to do basically what's called like a hip hugger pant. And we're going to use the same methods for cutting out a yoke for the back of our jeans. It'll be similar to the drawing that you see here, and also similar to the cover of the book itself. Okay, so let's get started now with the jean sloper first draft. What we're going to do is we're going to use our original pant block slopers, and we're going to turn these into a jean fit. You're going to need a fresh, clean, new piece of matrix paper. What you want to do is have the front and the back 2 inches apart, and then we can measure the crotch distance total between the two of them, and we'll add 4 inches to that. And then of course you can go from the ankle to the side seam at waist and add 4 inches to that as well. Now once you've cut out your matrix paper for your slopers, what I like to do is I'll get them in the middle, I'll get them 2 inches apart, And then I want to line up my grain line with some of the matrix dots, so I will start to move this front towards me until I can line up some matrix dots. And then I'll move this back away from me until I can line up this grain with some matrix dots. And that way I'm making sure that I'm leaving at least 2 inches or more in between the two of them. So go ahead and draw in your grain line for the back as well as the front. Now what we can do is we're going to come in here and we're going to line up the front on the grain line, and we're going to get ready to start tracing this off. What I want to do is I want to come down 1 inch from the top, and I'm going to line up my pattern piece. And then I want to find here where this hip level line is. And I can also just move this down a little bit to the very next row of dots. So then my hip level line is perfect right along these dots here. So now I have the hip level line for both the front as well as the back. I'm going to line this up again. This is my front pattern piece at the hip level line and the grain line. And I can come down here and find the knee level. Now the knee level is not going to line up with dots on the matrix paper, so ignore the dots and make sure that this is perfectly square going across the paper. And then let's go ahead and just double check here with the back. When I line up my back on the grain line as well as the hip level line, you should find that the knee level is exactly the same as from the front. So go ahead and just double check yours now. And continue drawing this all the way through. Now that we have our grain lines, hip level line, knee level line, we want to make sure that everything is totally square. If you don't have a square, you can always use some kind of a thick binder to make sure that you've done this correctly. Make sure you trace off the outside for the front, as well as getting your markings for the grain lines and center front, as well as your darts and the dart tips. On my sloper, I left here the seam allowance for doing a mock fly zipper, but I need to go back into the original center front curve. So I have those marks on here now. I need to come back in here and get my center front all the way to the knee level. And then I want to finish getting this crotch curve. So I have this location, that dot right there in center front. And if you need a reminder, you can always come back to your original sloper to find the curve that you were using and then bring that over here onto your fresh new paper. And let's go ahead and lightly trace off our 2 front darts. Go ahead and trace off your back pattern piece. And make sure you get your marks here for your center back as well as for your darts. And let's go ahead and trace off the 2 darts here at the back. And then just double check one last time. For the front, you have your 2 darts, and you have your center front here inside the pattern piece. And also you traced off the original crotch curve and not the curve here from the seam allowance. For the back pattern, you have your 2 darts here in the waist, and you also have your line here for center back. So far we have our hip level line as well as our knee level line going through the front and the back. We also need to have our crotch level line on the matrix paper. Now, if you recall, this pant sloper is all perfect and balanced. So the tip of this crotch level and the tip of this crotch level are totally parallel with each other. Now, in a perfect world, you should be able to just connect right from the tip of the back crotch curve to the tip of the front and draw a straight line, and that straight line will be parallel with the hip level and the knee level. But just in case when you were cutting out the pattern piece, if you had just slightly changed that, we need to make sure it's back to perfect right now on this new block. So instead of taking a metal ruler and just connecting the whole way, what I want to do is I want to measure down from the hip level to the tip of the crotch at the back and take the same measurement here at the front. Now if those measurements match, I can come in here at the side seams and put a dot, and then I can connect it all the way through correctly. Now when I compare mine, I can see that my front is about 1/16 lower than the back. So I'm going to take a look back at my master slopers. So here I have my front and back. This is the inseam at the ankle. I'm going to line those up, plus the notch here at the knee. And then when I come up here to see where the inseam points are hitting, I can see here where the back is just a 1/16 taller than the front. And I just want to double check to make sure, was this line not perfectly parallel when I cut it out? And I'm seeing here that it just needs a slight fix when I compare it to some matrix dots, and I'm being square with center with the gray line and square with center back. And then I'll go back and I'll fix this on my matrix paper. So here on my back, I've lined up the center front, the knee level, the hip level, as well as this inseam and crotch at center back. I erased the old one, and then I'm just cleaning this up. And then when I remeasure this, this is 3 1/4 plus another little 1/16. So now I can come over here to the middle, in between the two side seams. I can get this mark here. So now I know the distance down from the hip level to this crotch point and at the side seam is the same as the front. And I can also see this is totally parallel with my dots. And then I can continue this all the way to the front. And now I can just double check that this new crotch level line is square with the grain line from the front and from the back. At this stage now, we're ready to start adjusting this original sloper to have a jean fit. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the crotch level and going down to the ankles first. Alright, so next I'm going to show you some adjustments for the crotch level line for your jean fit. And this is going to apply to mature figures, plus size figure, and menswear. If you're going to be doing women's wear, Mrs. Petites, or teens, we're going to do something a little different, and I'll show you that next. From the original draft, what we did was we measured from the side seam at waist and whatever your crotch depth was, plus ease. So for some people it was 1/2 inch, some people it was 1 inch or 1.5 inches. And that's how we came up with this crotch level line. That was our fit for the dress pants. For denim jeans though, girls like it to be a little bit snug up in this crotch depth area. So what we're going to do is we're going to minus 1/2 of an inch by going upwards towards the waist. Now before I do this, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and just erase the original one, and I can still see where it was. So this way I can measure up 1/2 of an inch, and I'm making sure that this is totally going all the way across both pattern pieces. Another thing that we're going to do for denim is we want it to fit a little more tight at the top of her pants for two reasons. Number one, jeans in general fit a little bit tighter, but also when we do that straight waistband, the straight waistband is actually kind of loose and floppy. So what we're going to do is here at center back and here at center front, we're going to come in 1/2 of an inch. So come over to your center back and make a mark here in at 1/2 of an inch and circle it. Do the same thing, come over here to center front, come in 1/2 of an inch, put a mark on the waistline and circle it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lightly start to erase center front, but we're going to leave this location here at the full hip level. And I'm going to erase some of this older crotch curve going down to the bottom. Same thing over here. I'll erase center back, but down here where it touches at the full hip level, we'll leave this alone. And then I'm erasing the crotch curve that was going down to the old crotch level. Now come down here to the old crotch level line and out to where the inseams were touching. So these were the original inseam points. What we're going to do is along the old crotch level line, you're going to back it off by 1/2 of an inch, and you're going to bring that up to the new crotch level line and circle it. Again, so this is the inseam and the old crotch level line. We're backing this off by 1/2 of an inch, and we're coming up to the new crotch level line. So this is in 1/2, up 1/2. So here I am at the front. So this was our original front crotch corner. And following along the old crotch level line, I'm going to come in 1/2 of an inch. And then I need to go up to my new crotch level line and circle that. And so I'll just repeat that one more time because sometimes people get confused on this part. Basically, here's my original crotch level, and I'm following along cutting in 1/2 of an inch, and I'm going up 1/2 of an inch to the new crotch level line. So just double check yours with me. Here at the hip level line, we have the original locations. These are unchanged. When I come up to center back at the waist and center front at the waist, these are now 1/2 of an inch going in. When I come down to the original crotch level points, we came in 1/2 inch and we went up 1/2 inch. And we also drew our level line all the way across. Now let's turn our paper so we have center front facing towards us. And we're going to come in and we're going to fix a new crotch curve here at center front. Okay, so remember on our original draft, we came over to the crotch level line and center front. We drew a line at 45 degrees and we measured up anywhere from 1/8 all the way to 1 3/4 inches, depending on your client. What we need to do is we need to find that new location here. So this is our new crotch level line and our new center front. We're going to draw a line at 45 degrees and measure out whatever your distance was. So for instance, mine was 1 inch and 1/8, and that was for Missy Petite. Now that we have that curve, this is going to help us when we start to develop our French curve blending back into center front. Before we do the French curve, what we'll do is we're going to connect from the full hip level to our new center front with a straight line. And you can extend this line a little bit below as well. Now we can go from our new crotch level to our new guideline and back to the original full hip level line. Now once we have this in here correctly, let's start to erase some of this older stuff so we don't get confused with it, and just make sure that you're really clear that this is your crotch level and center front, and this is your crotch point for the front. Now let's turn our pattern around so you have the back, center back is facing towards you, and we're going to work on this crotch curve. For me, I'm just now noticing that I forgot to draw in my center back line from here. Now I already have the drill hole location, and I know that that's just square with the pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and put my center back in here now. Make sure you do the same thing for this next part. Now as you recall, what we did was we came in along the original crotch level at center back. We drew a line at 45 degrees, and everybody, men's, women's, plus sizes, everybody came out 1 inch and 3/4. We need to do the same thing here with our new crotch level line. So now we have our location from our original back at the full hip level, this new guideline, and coming out to our new tip, crotch tip out here. And then same thing as the front. From this new back at waist, it's just a straight line back to the original full hip level. And then you'll come back in here and finish connecting from here to your guideline and back to the crotch level. When you come back to the crotch level, it doesn't have to end right at the point, but it will touch somewhere along here within an inch or so before you get to the point. And if you need to slightly ignore this dot to get a smooth curve blending into here, it's okay to just slightly ignore that location as needed. At this stage, everybody's is going to look a little bit different. So go ahead and erase any other extra lines that are confusing, but make sure you keep your back crotch tip right here. Okay, so this is the adjustments that we're going to do for sizes 0 through 8, or if you're doing teens and tweens or petite. If you recall, when I did my pants original draft, we had dropped down for the crotch depth distance and only added just an inch of ease. And then back when I finished doing my muslin mock-up, the ease inside of on the dress form looked great and I loved it. I don't want to mess that up because the fit on the back also was really good. Now, when you move into a more mature figure, they're going to want lots of room. So for instance, on this size 6, I just gave a little bit of maybe like 1/2 inch of room, but as you get into an older client, they're going to want a good inch of room in there. Also, if you're doing a pant draft for men, men are going to want lots of room down in this area as well. Eventually, if you start to do a pant draft where you're tailoring the legs down, and making the crotch a little bit tighter for jeans, then of course for sure you'll just have a little 1/2 inch of ease in that area. Now on my pants, what we're going to do is we're not going to raise the crotch level line up 1/2 of an inch because I feel like it's already going to be snug enough. But I do want to start tapering down these legs to get rid of all this excess fabric because we're not going to have a single pleat in here and it's going to be a jean fit. So starting at center back, we'll come in 1/2 of an inch. And then we'll do the same thing at center front. So starting at the back crotch curve at the crotch level, the very tip here at the back, we're going to come in 1/2 of an inch and make a dot. And then I'm going to start to erase some of this to remind myself that that's now old information. Let's do the same thing here at the front. So here's our front crotch curve. This is the tip at the crotch level. We're going to come in 1/2 of an inch and make a dot. And then I'm just erasing some of the old information to remind myself this is my new location. Taking a look here at the front crotch curve coming all the way up here. Remember now that this is the women's natural waist. What we're going to do is up here at center front at the top of the waist, we're going to come inwards 1/2 of an inch and circle that. For menswear, your measurements are going up to the top of your boxers or somewhere around your natural waist. If you're doing menswear, come in 3/8 of an inch because it's going to be somewhere down here lower than the women's natural waist. Now this is going to become our new center front. So what I want to do first is I'm going to erase the old center front. You're also going to want to make sure that your French curve has a nice smooth blend between the two. So for instance on mine, I need to change this curve just a little bit. Now that we've adjusted it here at center front, let's go ahead and turn our paper around so we can do the same thing to the back. Again, for all of the women's wear, up here at the center back, at the natural waist, we're going to come in 1/2 of an inch and circle it. If you're doing menswear, wherever the top of your underwear is, you'll come in 3/8 of an inch and circle that. Now we're going to blend back up into here, and we want to maintain this full hip distance right here. So take out your blue color pencil and come along the full hip all the way out to the crotch curve and make a blue dot. We need to make sure that we hit this location so we're keeping the same width at the full hip so your pants will still fit you correctly. Now also you remember down here is our new location for the bottom of the curve, and up here is going to be our new location for center back. Let's go ahead and take a minute to erase some of this older curve so we don't get confused later. Come down here to the crotch level line at the back, and let's go ahead and make sure this is nice and dark. And remember, your French curve is going to stop somewhere along this straight line, so that last little bit right here is straight. You don't want to have a continuous curve all the way to the point here. Also here at the full hip level where we have our blue dot, basically it's a straight line heading back to our new center back. But I also want to make sure how my curve is going to blend in with that. So here I have my French curve. It blends down into the straight line here at the back crotch curve. And then the French curve was blending into a straight line connecting all the way back up to center back at her natural waist. So turn your paper back upright so we have the waist up here, and this is the back and this is the front. And let's review this one last time. So for those of you who are doing menswear and plus sizes and mature figures, you had taken your crotch level line, moved it up 1/2 of an inch, and you also moved in your crotch points in 1/2 of an inch. For those of us who are doing children's wear or sizes 0 through 8, all we did was we just moved our crotch seam and we made it shorter, coming in 1/2 of an inch. For all of us, we moved our natural waist in 1/2 of an inch for women's wear. And on men's wear, down in this area, wherever the top of your underwear is, you came in just 3/8 of an inch. And then we redrew center front and center back, and we retrued the crotch curves. Right here at this full hip level line, so we have a blue dot here at center back, the side seam of the back, side seam of the front, and come over here and put a blue dot at the center front at the full hip level. Now, if we check these locations versus our original sloper, you should notice that there's no change in that location. So the full hip right here, center back, side seam, is exactly the same as your master sloper. And when we compare it to the front, we have the full hip at the side seam, and then the full hip here at center front. Now that we have our new location for the front crotch tip, go ahead and circle that. And the same thing here at the new back crotch tip.